magazine, and I am here with the wonderful Lovelda Vincenzi. Hello, Lovelda, how are you?
Excited!
It's so good to see you. I've known Lovelda for a very long time, and we connected, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, Lovelda.
But yeah, a little event in Nottingham it was.
Was it Nottingham? My goodness, that is a long time ago.
It was.
And Lovelda is here today to help us with the idea of being seen, how to raise our profile. Last month at Psychologies, we were encouraging all our readers to start their own businesses, online businesses. I think for many of us, the COVID crisis has created a lot of opportunity for us to either start your own side hustle, start your own business on the side, or to explore new skills. And with that comes this whole thing, Lovelda, around profile, creating a profile and being seen and being heard. And there's the very much the building of that, of what that looks like on the outside, but there's also all the inner work that needs to be done as well. So first of all, start us off. So you've got somebody who wants to build their profile, whether it's to get another job or whether it's to build their business. Where do they start?
I think we tend to have a tendency, especially women, to overcomplicate things. Oh my gosh, I'm going to need a website and I don't have the tech skill. And there's this whole like drama around all of these things that we're going to have to do that we simply don't know how to do. And then that just creates this crazy block. And I know it personally because I remember the first business I started, I was like, I need a website. So I went off, hired a web designer. And of course, I had no content to put on said website. So then spent ages going, oh, heck, I suppose you're going to need something. I didn't know what I was going to write or where I was going to put it. And so it was all quite back to front. The good news is nowadays there are a lot of ways to start to build a profile in a way that is completely free and low maintenance. You don't need anybody external. So LinkedIn is one of my favorite platforms, and probably one of the ones I find people use the least in terms of social media platforms. It's almost as if it's like, oh my God, I'm so scared. I'm going to have to be serious and I don't know how to present myself. But the great thing about LinkedIn is whether you're looking for a job or you're looking to grow your business profile, the way LinkedIn is structured forces you to pull together all the best bits of who you are sensibly such that you know what to say, right? You have to have a headline and then you have a description of your business and what it does. And you don't need to have any real technical savviness to be able to do any of this stuff. And then furthermore, unlike a website where you build it and nobody comes to the website. So this is the other thing I learned when I first started out. You think, oh my gosh, I'll build a website and it's going to be transformational. It's like having a shop in the middle of a field. Nobody knows it exists, so it does nothing for you. You're better off having a market stall in the middle of a busy market. Terrible analogy, but LinkedIn is like a stall in the middle of a busy market. There's lots of people on there already. The search engines recognize it, so it directs people there. And generally, when you have a LinkedIn profile, without you really doing very much, it already appears when people search for your name. And so I would start with those sorts of platforms where it's really easy for you to piece stuff together and in a place where people are already. So whatever you put out there is already being seen by a number of different eyes, and you can do it in little phases. I know a lot of your listeners are mums and they're busy and there's lots of things going on and there's a distraction and maybe you can only carve out like a 20-minute window. Well, you can write a lot in 20 minutes and then you can publish it and it's live and it's doing work for you. You can't do that on a website because if you just put some random text on a page and make it live, it looks a bit silly.
Yes, yeah, sure. And how do you, if you were going to make the most impressive LinkedIn profile ever, if you were going to make the most, sorry, this is my lovely little rescue dog who will not leave my side. He's only been with me for a week, so he's going to take part in the interview and he always just needs cuddles if I'm giving my attention to someone else. So apologies, Lovelda, for Bertie interrupting us. But in terms of building a profile, of making it kind of really attractive and really sticky, really like the one that everyone goes to, are there any tips or tricks to be able to do that in terms of LinkedIn?
There are two main things that I would say. One is about the content of your profile, and the second is around how easy your profile is to find. And the two things kind of go very much hand in hand. So in terms of the content of your profile, what you want to do is pull out the sizzle, the sexiest, juiciest, funnest, most impressive things that you've done. And what I find as women, we have a terrible time at remembering them. Like the number of times I've worked with clients and I've gone, wait a minute, so you're an award winner? Why is that nowhere? Like, why am I digging deep to find this stuff? So you want to sit down before you write any sort of profile on LinkedIn or any page at all where you really want to position yourself as an expert, and think about what it is that really qualifies you. How many people have you worked with? What sorts of results have you got before for your employer or your clients? Is it volume based? Like, have you just worked in this industry a long time or worked on a variety of different projects that would help to distinguish you? Do you have awards? Have you been featured in awesome places that would add to your credibility? And these things should be front and center, not hidden. These are the things that are going to attract people to say straight away, because people have got really short attention spans online. And so what you want to do is have something really punchy up front that has people go, yes, you, because your profile is up against somebody else's and you could have exactly the same experience. The difference is they say it, you don't. The person looking at it knows no different. They just see two profiles and they think, well, I'm going to go with the person that sounds like they know what they're doing. They sound like they've been in the game longer. It feels like a safe pair of hands. And so it's firstly, it's your second thing is around, it went for a little bit, but it looks like I think we're back. So one was the content. That was the like beautiful pause. One was the content. The second one was what's in the content. So the other thing you need to think about is what is it you want to be known for? And the thing about LinkedIn is it's also a search engine, which we forget, like YouTube is also a search engine. You have the ability to go on there and look for a certain type of person. Like I'm looking for a management consultant. You can go in and just look for management consultant. So given that it is a search engine, you've got to think, well, how does LinkedIn decide who I put forward when somebody puts a term in? So I want to be booked for a speaking engagement. I've got to think, well, what would somebody type in? They might type in speaker or I don't know, diversity and inclusion speaker might be what they type in. And LinkedIn then has got to decide, well, whose profiles do I show this individual? It does that based on what's in your profile. So if you don't talk about, if that word diversity and inclusion speaker isn't in your profile anywhere, then LinkedIn doesn't think it's relevant to this person looking for that term. So you've kind of got to apply search engine optimization strategies to LinkedIn. And I don't think it's something very many people think to do. I certainly didn't for a very long time. But it makes a really big difference when you put yourself in the shoes of the person you want to be found for and start to think, well, what would they type in if they were looking for somebody like me? And does that term appear anywhere in my profile? Is it in my headline? Is it in my job description? Is it in my skills? If it's not anywhere in your LinkedIn profile, you can have great content. You could be the best in your field. Just LinkedIn is never going to put you forward when people type in exactly what you want to be found for.
I mean, this kind of search engine optimization, I mean, for people perhaps who that means nothing to, can you describe what that is? And are there any tricks around? I know there was that thing where you kind of put the search words in and seeing what came up. How would you, because I know, I mean, your kind of, your CV is huge, you know, you're kind of a host, you're a podcaster, you're you front international conferences. I mean, what do you put on your LinkedIn? Because you've got so many hats. And what I find with a lot of our readers is that we've got portfolio careers. We don't just have one career, we have many. So when people are trying to, so there's two questions there, sorry. Is one, if you've got lots of hats, where do you put it in your profile? And two, just, are there any good tips around SEO, around, you know, as in LinkedIn's SEO, in terms of doing? So maybe it's, I think what you said earlier was, which I really liked, was this idea of think about the person who might be wanting to hire you. Because
what are they searching for?
Yeah. When I was a coach, and I ran a really successful coaching business, and it was about career change, and the search engine that got me the most clients was "I hate my job." People used to put in "I hate my job" and my name used to pop up, which was fantastic, and then I would help coach them to get to a job that they loved. So anyway,
it is that. It's understanding what your clients would be looking for. So for me, they're looking for a host or an MC, and they would spell that MC, like the letter M and the letter C, or sometimes they spell it EMCEE, or they might be an event host. There's lots of terms they will use. My job is to have those terms throughout my profile. So I want the skill, MC, host, podcaster, interviewer, all of those skills, because the skills count in your search engine for LinkedIn. When I'm looking at my headline and how I describe myself as a speaker, MC, host, and podcaster. So all of those titles are in there. And then when I get in the job descriptions, I have a job description for each of these different areas. There's one for podcasting. There's one for business coaching for speakers. There's one, and it gives me the space to talk about those fully. So the thing with portfolio careers is there's not a problem with portfolio careers in and of itself. It only confuses people when there isn't a commonality in the thread. Right. So what I say is, if you can chunk it up and say, what is it you really want to be known for? What's your expertise? Why do you do all of these different things? So in my case, I podcast, I MC, I host, I coach female business owners. My mission is to empower authentic, powerful voices. So my podcast is the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast. And that's all I talk about. My coaching, I only work with women, and it's all about your business and speaking and working out, how do I help you get to as many people as possible? When I'm emceeing, I am in the role of getting to as many people as possible. When I'm doing these sorts of things, I'm doing them to my audience as much as possible to reach people underneath that, guys. So it's similar when you're working, because I have the same conversation with people. I speak about so many different things. Right? It's kind of the same thing, right? I have so many different things that I do. How do I talk about and sell all of them? You have to make it make sense to the person you're selling it to. And provided it makes sense that everything that you're doing is an expression of a theme, an expression of something bigger, then of course it would make sense. Why would you not do that as a podcast and a magazine and interviews and coaching and, whatever? Like, why would you not have all of those themes? And of course you would have all of those different areas associated with it. So in terms of the question of, but I do lots of things, what is your expertise that you want to be known for? And that's what you lead with.
Yeah.
And all of the other areas are then expressions of that expertise.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that. I mean, we're talking about building our profile here and being seen and being heard. What about the inner work? Because so many of the readers that I speak to around Psychologies, it's some fantastic coaches, some fantastic experts, and they have imposter syndrome. I can't possibly be seen. They're afraid to kind of put their head above the parapet. And I get incredibly frustrated because at Psychologies, we have this platform where we want to support and, champion these amazing women. And it's like some are very reluctant to come forward. What's the inner work that we need to do in order to build our confidence and competence?
Brilliant question. I see it as well. And I find a common reason behind it tends to be comparison. I can't, because look at how they did it, and I don't have the same level of expertise, and then I'm not going to be taken seriously, and like that's like a whole list of ands that kind of sits behind the I don't want to be seen. And it's normally because I don't want to be seen, because when I look at who I am right now against all of these amazing, awesome, incredible people, who am I to stand out against those? Nobody's going to pay me any attention. I'm not going to be taken seriously. It's all a load of hogwash, because in my experience, ironically, the gig that helped to transform my speaking career was one, and I can tell you exactly what the moment was. I was on a stage because I'd spent the rest of the time pretending to be somebody else, because you got to be serious. You don't show up and jump up and down and dance on a stage as a host. No, you're professional and you're serious, and that's what people are looking for. And so that's what I used to do. I used to show up and do my best to be as professional as possible, which basically meant strip as much of my personality out of the delivery, such that I could fit in, but want to be seen as independent and different. I'm like, seriously. And the thing that helped shift it for me is, I remember there was a specific event I was doing. It was an all-women's conference. For people who know me, I love to dance. I've been dancing since a kid. I just love it. I just throw some music on. I could dance in my house if I'm having a bad day. And we'd come back from a break. I think it was a lunch break. And I'd said to my friend who was doing AV, can you just throw a song on, because this audience is just feeling a little bit tired. And I can remember the song. She picked Fireball by Pitbull. It goes, dun, 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 woohoo, dun, 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 dun. Anyway, so the music is blasted up loud. I am in my own little bubble, like, come on, ladies, let's go. So we're like, I've got my eyes closed, my arms are in the air, I'm having my own boogie. I open my eyes, and no word of a lie, everybody, it's like party central in this place. Everybody's on their feet. They're dancing. They're doing this little circle. They're doing this little circle with their legs, like, one leg up and the other leg up. I was like, what the heck is this? It became the thing I was known for. And it was, I love your energy. I love your energy. I love your energy. I love your energy. And the thing I was hiding was my energy.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, let me put that front and center. I would rather you don't like me because you don't like me. Because on the one hand, we don't want to not be liked, right? But isn't it worse to not be liked for somebody that's not even you? It's like when you're pretending and it's like, I don't like that person. And somebody says, I don't like you. And it's like, well, that wasn't really me. I don't like her either, because that wasn't really me. So it's about doing the work to find the courage to show up. And that wasn't normally a space I'd be in. It was just a magical moment for me. I was ill. I probably just wasn't thinking quite so straight. But since then, it's in every moment being able to be authentically real as me. And that is always your USP, because nobody can ever do you better than you can do you. So why are you running away from it? Like, why are you hiding away from your beautiful gift this is your USP? Nobody else is ever going to have your life experiences in exactly the same way that you've had them, in exactly the same order, at exactly the same time. Nobody else is going to have your way of processing information and seeing things. They just simply cannot have that special thing that makes you you. So why try and take on something otherwise? I think the quicker you can find the confidence to get that it's your sales system, your creative process, your way of being on stage, your way of expressing, your coaching methods, that's what's going to help to kind of move things forward for you. So I'm hoping that somebody can kind of resonate with this maybe and find a little bit of inspiration. It's what helped me a lot. And it's a journey. I'm not always there. Like, I'll have days still where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do this. It helps having an Italian husband who's just the sort of person who just thinks everything's easy to do. So, when I look at him, I'm like, look, what am I making all of this fuss for and taking myself out of the game? He seriously doesn't care. He's like, what the heck? I'm just going to ask. I'm like, well, maybe I'm just going to take a little bit of that confidence and a little bit of that va-va-voom and bet on myself, because if I can't bet on myself, how on earth am I going to expect anybody else to do it?
I love that. I think that's so true. The two things that you said, one of my favorite writers is Nora Ephron, who wrote a lot of the kind of rom-coms in the 90s. I think she's fantastic. And she said, secret to happiness, marry an Italian. So I think you're way ahead of the crowd there. And the other thing, what you're saying is that's exactly right, is the point that this last point you're making about, being authentically yourself. And but I think that's probably why we not authentically ourselves, because we're so worried that people are going to reject us, and we go about this stupid roundabout way. It's like, okay, I'll just pretend to be really straight, and then people reject you. She was a bit all right, because it doesn't matter, because they're not really rejecting you. But I think the joy of when you are authentically you for the first time on stage, or when you show up and you're vulnerable and you're honest and you're exactly how you are, and people like it, there is nothing like it, is there? There's nothing like that kind of feeling of, wow, I can be me and be successful and, you know, make this, I can do this. I think there's something incredibly healing from a personal point of view as well as a professional point of view.
Do you know what the irony is? Life is so much easier. Business is actually easier and comes to you easier when you're just doing it your own way. It was a lot harder for me when I was pretending. I'm not going to lie. It always felt like work. It was always really difficult. It got a lot easier when people would just be, oh, I like you, I want to put you in touch with this one. And the conversations would always gel that much more because there was less of the nonsense in between and the games. It was just more, here I am, you like it, you don't like it. Not everybody's going to like me anyway. And if they all did, that would make me fake, right? If you think of anybody, celebrities, not everybody loves the Kardashians. Some people love them, some people hate them. Not everybody loves Oprah. Some people love her, some people don't like her. So not everybody is going to like you anyway. So at least let them like you, not a pretend version of you. It's so much easier to keep up. Yeah, so much easier.
It's just such great advice. One of the things I used to tell my clients is, you know, when you're at the beginning of trying to kind of put on paper, it's just kind of rant on the paper, vomit on the page, just really just write about who you are, what you want, da da da. And don't think that anyone's ever going to see this. Just let it all out. What do you believe? What do you think? What gets on your nerves? Da, da, da. And just kind of download it. And it's like, yeah, that's who I am, but I could never let that out kind of thing. But then you go, actually, okay, let's just shape this into, you know, this is who I am and this is what I think. Because I think so many of us, especially women, we've kept it under wraps for so long. I mean, the other day I was absolutely having a complete feminist rant, a real rant. And my boyfriend turned around to me and said, oh my God, I've never heard you talk like that before. And I said, because I'm furious. I'm effing furious. And it all came out. But I just thought, wow, it's like there's parts of me now that I'm really kind of getting in touch with, that are, you know, that I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not afraid not to play the nice girl, to be people pleasing and all of those things. And I think hey, that's what I hear you saying, and I hear, you know, for right now, it's kind of rising up and actually being who we really are is one of the greatest gifts that we can give, isn't it? Just getting out there.
Here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's one courageous step after another. And the irony is you'll probably find that there's a lot of people who are in exactly the same space. So I remember when I kind of got into a space of spirituality, I used to call it the woo-woo stuff. And I really did not want to be involved because some people aren't going to like this, but in my mind, the woo-woo people were not my peeps. You know, they hung out in fields. I did not hang out with fields, and they didn't wear any shoes, and it just was not my world. You know, I don't mind to be out in nature, but I don't camp. And sometimes I just felt like they were just too disconnected from normal stuff. And I was one of these people who was going about getting stuff done. And so I didn't really want to ever have people see me in that light, because it's not me and it's just not who I am. There's nothing wrong with it, but I just didn't see myself as a woo-woo person. And so spirituality, woo-woo, and I had this vision of what these people look like. So I used to keep that stuff under wraps. Like I would have a candle or little crystals, and I'd be like interested in this stuff, but I wouldn't dare tell anybody. And what I started finding is I would get on calls with prospective clients, and all of them were undercover spirituals, like every single one of them, no word of a lie. All of them were just like, yeah, I don't tell anybody either, because same reasons, right? And so the funny thing is, the more and more you find a little bit of courage to just open up that little bit of you, you find there's a lot of other people just like you who are looking for permission to be who they are, and they only find it when you give them permission by showing up and saying, look, these two things can coexist. I can be a really headstrong business person and somebody who's got a really strong intuition, spiritual side to me at the same time, and they can coexist in the same person. And that doesn't mean, no, I'm not a person who's going to camp. It just appears in a very different sort of format, and it's okay. And if I can show it, it gives somebody else permission to also to be able to show it. So if you're hiding, especially people who are coaches and consultants, you cannot expect your clients to do something you're not prepared to do. You cannot expect your clients to show up powerfully if you're not prepared to show up powerfully because you're hiding. And it doesn't mean you have to do it all at once. For me, it was like one little secret conversation after another little secret conversation after like terrified Facebook lives into my group where I'm like shaking and somebody's behind me going, come on, Lovelda, you can do it. And I'm like, I don't want to tell them. What are they going to say? Like, I don't even think it was coherent. It was just like, okay, so I have a confession. I'm a spiritual being, you know, like just nonsense. But over time, it's become easier for me. And I think when you kind of get the first time you do something, it may be terrifying, but you do it enough times and now it's normal. Yeah. You don't need to get it right. It's fine.
Yeah. But also, I think, as you say, one of the kind of authenticity of being able to do that, and people go, wow, and especially if you do have a platform, if you are seen and heard, and all of a sudden that you're talking about. So I love it. I love it when my heroes and my heroines, they start talking about, I think, oh, you know, they're talking about, I mean, I was interviewing Chris Hoy the other day, Olympiad, and he was talking about, you know, belief systems and not feeling, just feeling like he was average and feeling, and I was like, oh, he's got imposter syndrome as well. And I was like, but he's won 6 gold medals. And as you say, with the spirituality, I mean, for years, you know, I've sort of said to my, with my team and everything, oh, it's very heebie-jeebie. And now all my team are practically, you know, out proud around spirituality, and we call it the force and all of these things. And it's just finding a shared language for it that doesn't, you know, I suppose at the bottom of it was we're frightened of being kind of dismissed or discredited, and especially as women, you know, there can be that, oh well, you're very emotional, and you know, well, actually, it's my greatest.
Yes, I am, and what?
Yeah, for me,
at least I'm having a human experience, so I decided to experience it fully. It has a spectrum of emotion. I feel like I'm doing a great job. And what? Like, yes, I'm emotional.
Yeah, I think what I see with a lot of you know, our readers and the people I'm hanging out with is that we know how to do the kind of the logical spreadsheets. We've learned how to structure and do all of that, and then we've become successful in a certain kind of arena, and then all of a sudden, you know, it feels a little bit, well, certainly for me, it felt a little bit empty to me. It felt like, oh, okay, this is success and it looks like this. But then as soon as I bring in my intuition and get back into the flow and connect with the force, as I call it, all of a sudden I can use the structure and all of the kind of more masculine energy, or the yang energy, to work with my yin, and the kind of combination of those two. So it's not either or, but it's the combination and the kind of what's the word, the melding of those two things. That's what it feels like we need in the world right now, is not either or fighting around it, but just actually bringing together our energies, not from a gender point of view, but from an energetic point of view. And that's what
Absolutely.
I see. And by what you're saying is, like, by saying it out loud, by saying I'm a spiritual being, or whatever it is, you know, that we own it, and then we can start, other people can own it too, and show their real selves.
I absolutely agree. I think in addition to that, it takes being okay with being in a space of unknown. So I remember when it was like, okay, so I've discovered I've got this spirituality side of me, but I'm working with speakers, with how, you know, my mind immediately goes, how the heck do I put these two things together to kind of make it work? Like, you know, where does my intuition fit into this? And am I supposed to now include meditations? Because that's what we think spirituality is. Let me include some meditations and stuff. And I, you know, occasionally I'd throw a couple of these things in because I just felt like I needed to fit them in. But being okay with not knowing exactly how the two things come together, but just going with it. So for me, I do intuitive sales, right? And intuitive reach out. And it works most bizarrely because I'm just kind of like, well, I know I can be highly intuitive. So, and I know that I have this tendency to reach out to people out of the blue just when something's going on. I don't know what it is. It's just I pick up on the energy of it, and I'm now called to have a connection. So I thought, well, what if I do outreach like this, right? So I will literally sit on my LinkedIn profile or Facebook, and I'll just scroll through names, and one of them will pop out, and I'm like, hey, girl, how are you? I don't know where it's going. I don't know how it's going to come across. If you're in a coaching session with me, some of it is very structural, and some of it is I'm feeling really called to tell you this right now. I don't know exactly why. So it is integrated into everything that I do, but it's not necessarily that I impose the form in which it integrates upon it. So I don't enforce that now I'm going to start doing meditations because that's what everybody thinks of as spiritual. No, I'm just intuitive. So sometimes I'm on a call with you and it will just be some sort of download. I'm not quite sure why I'm reaching out to you now in this way, or why am I telling you this, but it just feels like the right thing to tell you. And normally within a couple of days, it's really obvious why I've mentioned something at the time that I have, or I've been called to send something at the time that I have. But I really wanted to kind of remind people, we don't need to know exactly how it's going to be, because sometimes that needs to know is exactly what keeps us stuck from having the full expression and the full authentic experience of ourselves. Because like it comes up, well, what does this mean? What am I supposed to do with it? Oh, I don't understand it. I'll put it back in a box.
Yeah, but I think, you know, and what COVID's doing for us now is getting us really used to being uncertain and not having any certainty, and being able to, we're having to think outside the box. We're having to kind of notice the intuitive nudges that are taking us in a new direction, or being open to create new creative ideas. I mean, I love what you're saying. I mean, this is kind of my world. Absolutely. Lovelda, I've just realized we're way over time, but I'm just so enjoying talking.
I have that tendency. I just love the conversation.
Lovelda, thank you so much for joining us today. That was such an interesting conversation. So this is Lovelda, host, MC, podcaster of Women. Is it Women of Power?
Women of Power podcast. Yeah. You type my name into any sort of podcasting platform pretty much, and just Lovelda Women of Power podcast, it'll come up there.
Wonderful. And you can see all the links and all the LinkedIn. You can see how it's done properly with Lovelda's profiles and everything. Lovelda, thank you so much for your time to get today. And I will speak again with you soon. Lots of love. Bye-bye.
Lovely to be here. Bye.
Bye. Bye.